Well, Kyle, we succumbed to peer pressure. I bet you're wondering what I mean by that.
That's right, Garrett.
Well, our dear viewers said to do more extremes after Shinryu. So we did.
It wasn't the toughest sell in the world. Like, we really, really liked Shinryu. We wanted to see more difficult content.
Yes, but also we were staring down the barrel of Shadowbringers thinking it might be fun to get into that as soon as humanly possible.
It's a good co-op game, and I wanted to see it at its height.
That's a fair point. I did thoroughly enjoy Shinryu. We have a whole video dedicated to our thoughts on that, as a matter of fact. There's probably a link somewhere around here.
There will be.
We picked which extremes to do next by polling our audience. We ran like actual polls and kind of narrowed it down to what we were going to do next. But I gotta say, dude, I was not expecting these two fights across two completely different expansions to feel linked. These two fights have a lot in common with one another in my mind. These are both boss fights that take Final Fantasy XIV's narrative and incorporate it into their mechanics. Today we're going to be talking about what Kyle likes to call Gigapope, so I can't get that thought out of my head, but Thordan Extreme and Tsukuyomi Extreme. And yes, I do. I think these two fights are linked. Before we move on, if you want to help us choose what we do next, we run polls for our members here on the YouTube. Yeah, that's right. We have memberships. There's a little button in the corner. Also, if you watch us live, you get access to things like our emojis and additional perks like members-only chat in our Discord. Become a member. Thank you for the support, and also, enjoy getting to weigh in on the polls that we put up there. Dragon's Gaze, look away, look away.
Oh, do stuff!
Yeah!
Do stuff, yeah!
Woo! Holy crap. Let's go.
God.
Woo, that's a fight.
God. My God.
So let's talk about Gigapope. I mean, Thordan Extreme. He's not even a pope, he's a bishop.
Oh, yeah, and a government figure and all that. Oh, he's hopped up on Nidhogg. All of these we did on minimi level, blind, no echo. And we kept that echo off for the whole thing.
Yeah, we didn't Shinryu this. We didn't hit 2 a.m. and say, you know what, maybe echo would be pretty nice. We downed both of these with no echo. Yeah, so shout out to our teams.
Yes, big shout out to our teams for not only sticking with us for all the hours, but putting up with our blindness through this. Now, we did have a special tool here, a little forensics I really, really enjoyed, which was the live stream. We were able to watch our own stream after we would die. Because there's usually 2 nights, so there's one I'm not paying attention to, perhaps. They're actually, by the power of the internet, let's take a look. In real time.
In real time conversation.
Hey, it's suggesting our clips channel at the top. Nice job, YouTube. Oh, it was such a puzzle. I love this so much. I know this is kind of what progression raiders get to do. I'm kind of excited to be there someday now because it was just really, really fun trying to deduce when the night spiraled across the map, what that meant, what was on us, what debuffs were currently sitting on our screens.
Yeah, it's something we didn't do that during Shinryu.
No, we just kept blinding.
Probably we could have done that without echo if we had.
Yeah, the damage got so high in Shinryu, but it would have helped. It would have helped us figure out why we were dying.
I just remember your butt puckering every single time you got to the little dragon ad phase.
Oh, I hate it.
And then there was butt puckering and Thordan for the charging knights. That made both our butts pucker. There's a lot of puckering going on.
Stop saying that. Stop saying that. But you're absolutely right. Both Thordan and Tsukuyomi had some real nail biter moments and just like deeply uncomfortable mechanics. So we went into this, Thordan, not only blind, but no understanding of traditional Final Fantasy tactics. And one of the first things we learned was the clock positions. What a useful tool.
I'm assuming this is part of the reason, as a tank, you're told to just kind of, in general, always face bosses north.
You put these markers in all the corners, around like a clock you would in a circle, so that anytime you have to run apart, split for certain mechanics, particularly because mechanics target one healer, one DPS, or chain together certain job types, you all run for it into your different cubbies and thereby maximize your chance of survival.
Bless our team. They didn't suggest this for quite a while. They let us bail without clock positions for quite a bit.
It's an extremely useful tool. If I'm being honest, I think this makes streams more unwatchable, because when I would, as a player with no knowledge of the game, show up and be like, what's Final Fantasy about? Is this game good? What does progression rating look like back in 2019? Checking it out, I saw just symbols all over the map and went, oh, this is messy. What is this? Once you're in it and you understand clock positions, it's beautiful.
I mean, to compare it to other games I watch, is it any worse than like looking at a spreadsheet of add-ons?
Seeing all the deadly boss mods tick around and all the various pop-ups and words. Yeah, no, it's not that visually disconcerting. I already understood that language, though, coming from World of Warcraft.
That is fair. That is fair. Sometimes context helps, it turns out, Kyle. What I enjoyed about this was we got through quite a few of Thordan's mechanics without doing it the quote-unquote proper way. And then we had our own little rule of like, well, did we get past that phase? All right, just tell us the optimal way to do it. Once we got past it through caveman brute force, we decided that, hey, go ahead and learn us good. Go ahead and teach us the optimal way to do this. And I had a lot of fun because Thordan's kind of where we developed this. We were like, all right, if we're through it, if we've already done it the bad way, go ahead and feel free to tell us the good way to do it. And boy, howdy, did it make that kind of middle segment of Thordan a lot easier once folks were like, you just got clock positions, you spread the ads apart, do the mind like third eye opening moment of realizing the buffs that were on the ads indicated how much damage they were taking and that you should move your DPS accordingly.
Yes, the sword stance and the shield stance, and moving those around properly, not wailing on an invincible target. Pretty good idea.
When you would yell helicopter, and I was like,
helicopter.
What the is the helicopter?
Helicopter was anytime any of these knights would take their swords and like across the map.
They would meta knight from Super Smash. They would just meta knight. The triple charging knights is still something where I'm like, nope, I would absolutely depend on my teammates to show me where it is safe to stand. It is a insanely wide line attack. It's such a small tolerance for whether you get hit by this or not. And then, I'm just going to give that attack public enemy number 1 of this fight. If you're going to go try it on mid-high level extreme, it shows up in the final phase. Now, granted,
yes.
just one of them. But there are so many other things happening at the same time. It's such this fight is a beautiful stacking escalation. It keeps introducing new things you need to worry about, and then by the time you get to essentially the final phase of the fight, which I'm told there's even more that we didn't see because on our clear run,
wonderful,
there was more beyond it, but we cleared it soon enough that we didn't need to worry about it. But by the time you get to that essentially the final phase, it has just stacked everything you've learned on top of each other. You now have to deal with all of the mechanics at the same time. And there's very few windows of where you have a proper breather.
Yes. The way the ads are mechanics, and sometimes the ads are only mechanics, it is very chaotic, particularly the meteor phase. What's known as Phase 4B, because there's so many phases, they have to take the numbered phases and divide them into other phases, where comets are falling from the sky. One big meteor's falling in the middle. You have holy meteors. Sir Heminosti is in the middle, slamming circles. And I'm just spamming heals, running around. For this one, I was doing astrology. I went back to my Heaven's Word roots for this. Just running in chaos while we're all also, some of us, on fire, exploding in an area around us. There is some place for individual expression in Final Fantasy rating, a la 2015 here. We're talking Heaven's Word, so things may have changed, but you're much better off just doing the dance the right way and not trying to cheese it or come up with some unique idea or re-equip a gear or something.
No. Yeah. I mean, the first time we made it to the what I would call the final phase, I think they're more clearly delineated than that. But once you get through that middle segment and you get to where you have Thordan is the eye, but there's also a relocating eye at the edge of the...
Oh my God, what a surprise that was.
At the edge of the arena. Yeah. That, like, to me, that whole... Everything after that point is the final phase. Because it's just mechanic soup. The first time we got there, we did pretty well, and I didn't even know that the eye at the edge of the arena was a mechanic, which seems so stupid of me now. It's like, of course it's a mechanic, you dingus. It's a giant. You think the giant eye is just hanging out there at the edge of the arena for fun? That they just
did, yeah.
Yeah. But then I think about Kafka. Is it Kafka?
Yeah, he's got the whole warring triad pillar.
The warring triad pillar shows up, and you're like, wow, that's beautiful and scary, and like to me, a vaguely Lovecraftian, because it's like just horrifying. I don't really know what it means, but it's very much a mechanic that's on the edge of the arena. X-Death has a mechanic on the edge of the arena. Final Fantasy XIV loves mechanics on the edge of the arena that are graphically interesting. So my brain should have went, I think that eye's bad news. But no, I just went, I'm just going to assume that's set dressing. And but the funny thing was, is like the first attempt that we kind of actually lived a decent amount of time in that final phase, it went pretty well. It went pretty well. And so I just like, it was like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the eye is of much consequence. Then we all got Meta Knight speared. Yep.
Not before, of course, I got destroyed by the Hoshafant laser, because you get your lock on from Sir Zephyr's Spear of Fury, which the off tank needs to intercept and kind of catch for you. You also get like Holy Bash, so you can't even move if you wanted to during that phase. Like, it is brutal, along with the boss existing at the same time. We ended up making it to phase 8, which you're not wrong. Like, the entire kitchen sink, like everything in the fridge is just thrown at you for this ending. Holy Chains, Dragon Glaze, Ascalon's Fury, Hemmeled Storm, Heaven's Flame, Sacred Cross, like it just all of it.
It was the KFC famous bold mechanics. It was
mix them all together.
It was just a lot. Yeah, it's your one uncle at Thanksgiving where you're just like, what? Do you have to mix it all?
Yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, well I do it.
You're that uncle. Okay.
At dinner proper, when the nice plates are out, I eat each thing individually. But when it's 1 a.m. and everyone's left for the night, oh yeah, you just open that fridge and you just start it right out of the Tupperwares. At first you're like, lightning storm. Oh, what an interesting mechanic. Oh, conviction towers.
This video is coming out very close in November. I'm a sandwich guy. I make a turkey sandwich that night. That's what I
Sure,
have.
That's good. Yeah, good call. I like that. Little
that's what everyone showed up for. You showed up here for Garrett and Kyle's Thanksgiving leftover dips.
Meta strategy. Yeah.
Now this fight was incredible, and in a way, I think it has, for me, a clearly superior middle portion than Tsukuyomi.
We got a white dress.
We got a stack. Move the stack. Move the stack. Move the stack. Did it not move? We're okay? It looked like it went off. GG! Holy shit!
Oh my god.
Oh, that was a call on the stack. Oh my god. Who needs Echo?
Oh my god.
Who needs Echo?
That is an endurance trip.
So, Tsukuyomi Extreme. If you go back and watch our MSQ review for the end of Stormblood, you'll hear me talk about how this is one of my favorite fights of all time. Like, ever. Oh, actually, hell, we Wall of Dungeons this, didn't we? Or Wall of Trialed?
Yeah,
we Wall of Trialed this, and I believe I won an argument for putting this at the top. I love this fight. I really, really love this fight. And a reason I brought up back when we reviewed the normal version that you have to play to get through the MSQ, I said that I think it's, not to be overly serious, but I think it's beautiful the way that they incorporated lore and narrative into mechanics. And it was only when you were like, hey, let's take the two last extremes we did and make them fight. Let's take Thordan, like to take our Thordan action figure and our Tsukuyomi action figure and smack them together and listen to plastic noises. That I went, yo, dude, there's a thread here. These two fights are some of the most narratively heavy fights we have encountered. I guess a lot of chapter end ones are too, because we could probably throw Nidhogg into this. You know, the Nidhogg narrative kind of happens outside of it. Never mind. No, you're just kind of fighting a dragon.
Estinian flies around, but the ads that he summons, like the 2 dragons plus the 1 dragon, like those 3 dragons don't really mean anything outside of Nidhogg has control of dragons. Like this is literally the suffering bar is filling, and you have to make sure you don't wipe because she's so sad.
Thordan has a better middle phase than Tsukuyomi. Kyle, are we masochists? Because I think we both prefer the middle phase of Thordan because it is hard as shit compared to the middle phase of Tsukuyomi.
Yes. I will also add the critique. I will add the critique on that this isn't even like a relaxing middle phase because it happens at 80%. But we even blind, minimum eye level, made it to the ad phase in our first go.
Yeah.
Now, granted, our party did know about job positions. This was the thing we learned here was more about like tanks at north. We had healers to the west and the DPS south. So when she'd do gun stuff or spear stuff, our team was already kind of doing it for us. So we were able to stumble through. But oh my goodness. I think we even rated Byaku's fight really highly because we're like, this is awesome. Look at the storm. Look at everybody tumbling around. This is great. I get it now. I get why a less than stellar middle phase when you're progging or perhaps farming, it could be a bit of a bother.
Well, yeah, because even if you are doing this like unsynced, because you're just trying to farm the mount, right? Which because you need to run on an extreme, it's like this middle phase would get old. The thing that makes me love this fight so much is also the thing that makes it kind of a bore when you're doing it over and over again. And So there's that. I'm with you. Like suddenly I had that realization because we've literally spent our entire night clearing Tsukuyomi Extreme. So we saw this middle phase a lot. And don't get me wrong. I love murdering Asahi over and over and over and over again as much as the next person.
Mm-hmm.
But it started to wane on me a bit.
Sure. Xenos is cool. Gosetsu, it's great to see you again. But we were never really in any danger, except for when we'd sometimes get 69 on the suffering bar. That was kind of, you know,
that became nice, our little personal goal. Yeah. But that opening phase and the ad phase, it's just legitimately easy. I'm just gonna say it's legitimately not a challenge. And then you get out of that, and the fight is just hard as butts. Like
yes.
I think Tsukuyomi Extreme might be the hardest extreme we've done so far. And I think we've done the 3 that everyone kind of debates about. I feel like Shinryu, Thordan, and Tsukuyomi. Those are the 3 that everyone's kind of like, that's pretty hard. And I haven't heard Tsukuyomi in the debate nearly as much. I have seen it showing up in our comments, but Thordan and Shinryu are the 2 that everyone I think says these are like the hardest. And I'm like, I don't know. Tsukuyomi was like such a hard fail state. Like if you screwed up these mechanics compared to Shinryu and Thordan. Don't get me wrong. Like we are, to me, I think I'm deeply in hair splitting territory now. All 3 of these are legitimately hard. All 3 of these are fairly transformative from their normal counterpart in terms of difficulty, not as much in mechanics compared to something like Shinryu. Shinryu is like truly a completely different fight, which is so cool. But all 3 of them, I think, you know, they really move the needle in terms of just how much more damn difficult this is. But Tsukuyomi seemed like almost binary. Like if you don't get this right, it's over. Whereas it felt like the other fights, there was a little bit of room for error, a little bit easier to get off a limit break and have another, like one more last ditch effort to try and clear this thing.
There is no room for forgiveness in Tsukuyomi. When you get to Selenomancy, moon stuff, anyone can wipe everything.
Oh, this is bad. This is bad. Oh. Yep. That was rough. I'm sorry.
Oh, there's 2 rocks. Oh, shoot. Do we not have
That
any?
was my fault.
Oh, the rocks exploded because they were next to each other.
That was my fault.
Okay. And you just went through the first phase, minutes, ad phase, minutes, and now you're invested in this run. It's been pretty easy up to this point. Moonlit, moon shadows, the debuffs, the stacking of doom, having to be on top of those stacks and place your butt inside the various new moon zones or full moon zones. And
yeah, or you're literally running with someone who doesn't know what new moon means.
that can happen.
Yeah, I don't know who in our group didn't know the phases of the moon, but boy, would it be embarrassing if you didn't know what new moon meant.
Yeah, Garrett didn't know the moon phases. He's not waxing and waning literate.
Everything else makes sense. You have first quarter, you have full moon, you have last quarter. I know what full means. I know what quarters means. What the is new moon? Why don't we just call it sliver?
Eventually, white and black become your strategy and you drop the moon business. But this whole meteor dropping the rocks where you're going to create moon holes so you can then, in your final moments of doom, run over to a opposite moon hole, barely survive the doom, and then run out of it again. And guess what? It's not over. You got to do this again later. It's not over. And I'll throw myself under the bus here a bit, but for the first 2 hours of our night, I never got a meteor. Just by chance. Val Gaunt, the samurai, never received a meteor. And then suddenly 2 hours in, I've got a brand new mechanic I'm supposed to be figuring out.
And you kept getting it.
Yeah, for the rest of the night, I was in charge of this thing. and guess what? If the meteors are too close together, they explode and kill each other. So not only do you have to drop them in the appropriate moon phase to create moon holes for yourself to hang out in, they can't be too close together or you won't have anything to do. And you're now, 7 minutes in the fight or something? And you got to just wipe.
Would you call it important moon business?
It's extremely important moon business.
The most important moon business.
I don't think I've ever done an MMO fight where one player can destroy everybody, can ruin the entire run over and over again. So again, shout out to the team this night for being very positive, very down. Our forensics, our stream-based forensics helped out a bit figuring this out. In fact, I remember a particular instance where you did not believe me at all that this is how the moon holes worked. What is on this map that we could use? Wait, there's that dark circle of Moonbiz on C. Is that dark circle the moon hole? I think we need to get in the moon hole. Let's try getting in the moon hole. Before we
keep talking about a moon hole.
It looks like a ground effect, but it could be good. It could be pleasant.
I don't know.
Let's get in the moon hole. This pool to the moon hole.
I want it noted that I think this pool is dumb. Kyle has learned nothing,
Noted.
And he's going off of nothing.
Noted.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was like, what are you talking about?
It does look like a bad circle.
Yeah.
Particularly when you had the new moon hole sitting there, and you're thinking, that's not something I want to stand in. Plus, there was just an exploding rock there. Why should we get everybody to run in that hole?
Kyle, I owe you a serious apology. You were right about the moon holes.
I mean, to be fair, it does seem pretty made up.
It's a diligent for this part of the fight. Once you get past the ad phase, Tsukuyomi is really well designed. But again, it's why I think I prefer Thordan. It's just the opening two phases of Tsukuyomi feel like a chore. I need to get through this so that I can learn the hard part of the fight. Whereas Thordan, it's all kind of equally hard. The opening phase is relatively easy, but the ad phase is somewhat difficult. And like you said, I feel like we accomplish something when we get through Thordan's ad phase. Whereas Tsukuyomi, in a game that doesn't really do trash, it kind of feels like trash. And I don't mean insulting it in a way, like when you think about trash in an MMO. It feels like we're fighting there's ad phase. It is literally fighting ads, but I hope you get my meaning.
It'd almost be nice if after the exploding moonhole phase, that things just got easy. But you would be dead wrong. Because then she enters color dress phase, where we have to watch her dress change colors, and it changes whether or not there's going to be an explosion in a donut or in the area around her.
We both did a good amount of tough love this night.
To get through it. Dude, yeah, bright blade, dark blade is not easy, particularly when, hey, the boss can spin. Like, it's still not quite Lauber side levels of obtuse, but the boss can move. Left and right is in transit sometimes. And it was really, really hard. Plus, it's a cleave to her back as well. Like, it is not just a half. It's a little bigger than a half. So dodging this was nerve-wracking. And I used a third-party add-on called Sticky Notes to get through this. made what was known as a diagram.
I was very annoyed at your diagram.
I was having trouble remembering the in and out, what dress color meant, where the donut or AoE circle was going to be. And I also have left and right association problems as dyslexic. So I created a sort of extended field of view with sticky notes so I could get through this phase.
You know, listen, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think Yoshi P would approve.
I think so too. I think he'd be okay. It was so nerve-wracking watching her change her dress around. And on top of this, don't forget, fans exploding, plus a stack mechanic. And she's changing her outfits. What a miserable 35%.
It was starboard, larboard all over again for me. I think it was kind of serendipitous that these were the next two extremes that we did, because it wasn't until you and I were talking about possibly doing this video as these two fights, like, not that long ago, that I was like, oh, these fights are linked. Because with Thordan, we go, and obviously Thordan is narrative in his own right, but the mechanics of the knights, like the fact that he summons the knight that killed Harshaphant and the rest of the knights, and these mechanics that you needed to deal with, that while, yes, I am... Well, I was tanking while you all needed to worry about the mechanic that killed Harshaphant. I didn't need to worry about that, but you're worrying about that. But also maybe in the back of your mind, you just, you know, if you're one of these people like us that really enjoys the MSQ, you're like, oh, you bastard, you killed my friend. Like, that's going through your brain, and then an entire expansion and a half. Like, Tsukuyomi closes out Stormblood, so an expansion and a half later, you go and do Tsukuyomi. And these two fights, they seem cut from a similar cloth, because you go and fight Tsukuyomi, and yeah, you got to get through that ad phase. And while it is, at the end of the day, a classic MMO boss mechanic of, all right, time for the ad phase, got to deal with all these additional mobs, there's a lot more to it because of the narrative meaning of what we're going through and who we're fighting right now. So much of our journey through this game has been being proved right on the popular opinion that Final Fantasy XIV has one of the best stories ever told in a game. And depending on who you are, and you'll probably let me know in the comments right now, you might just think it's one of the best stories ever told. I did not expect to show up to this game and experience some of the best boss fights I've ever played in an MMO. It's something that I put a lot of value in. It's a reason I come to MMOs in the first place. So it's just been this delightful surprise, as Final Fantasy XIV has proved to me, expansion after expansion, that yes, its story is as good as everyone hypes it up to be. It's also had this corner of delightful surprise in its boss fights. It comes to play and stands toe-to-toe with some of the best MMO fights I've ever experienced.
And I definitely understand why World of Warcraft players coming to Final Fantasy call Final Fantasy's boss design a dance now. Because Shinryu was kind of a special case. There was quite a bit of variance between the levy bolts and getting in the puddles and the icicles. But Thordan, you had to do things right, with a little room for variance. Tsukuyomi, you did everything right or else. But that escalation, particularly in Thordan, really embodied this for me. Just, you learn a mechanic about the pillars or our helicopters, and you'd see that again in the final moments. Tsukuyomi, it escalated. But when those all came together, it was just chaos. But it gave us this party moment that I feel like really adds to the victory here. When things were at their absolute worst, that's when you killed the boss. And I really like that design. It means you walk away really feeling it.
Wall of Extremes when, Kyle?
A long time out. So now we've seen 2015 mechanics. We've seen 2018 mechanics. I am very curious to see how this dance evolves in Shadowbringers. And do they embrace more World of Warcraft ideas with the influx of players during that time? Or do they stick to this dance idea?
Well, they don't want you to use add-ons, so I have a feeling that probably plays a role.
Oh my god, I love not being yelled at by a bunch of bells and bars.
Yeah, it's so much better to get yelled at by chat instead.
Yeah, add-ons by grinding gear, yeah.
Oh my god.
We could sell sticky notes, we could sell like, I don't know, like...
You can sell UV glasses with the GG logo on it.
We could do an egg timer, sell an egg timer. Just a bunch of dumb shit that we used to get by in an add-on-less game. Yeah, man.
That's so specific. I love it.